Hi, I'm Tim. Welcome to the channel. In another video, I went through the basic text editing features in Lightburn. In this video, I'm going to go through the variable text features that is in Lightburn. So hopefully you'll get some understanding of how the variable text features work, the different modes that they have, and how you can use them in a practical way in your projects. So let's get into Lightburn and I'll show you what's going on. Alright, so right here, in fact, we don't want to go here just yet. I want to go here. Here I have show all the variables that is in Lightburn for date and time. Notice this block has date and time selected. There's also merge CSV, serial number, or cut settings. In this portion, we're dealing with the date and time settings. And if you click on test, you see the variables all changed. So I'm just going to click bake so it stays on the screen for us. Now over here I have, this is just the exact same thing, just this is in normal text mode, and this was done in date and time mode. But now it is back to normal text because I baked it in. What baking it in is, it makes a permanent change. If you don't bake, let's undo. Okay, backed out. This is not baked in, it's still a test pattern, but if I click on it in preview, it shows with all the variables have been changed. So just because you don't see it on your screen doesn't mean it's not going to output properly. So you always want to check your preview screen to see what you're dealing with. But there again, let me go back into bake so we can go through this one line by line. So the top line is the date and day. Single lowercase d is the day of the month in numerical date. Double D is also numerical. The difference is a single will not show the leading zeros. Like January, it will not show 01, it'll just show 1. Where with the two Ds, it will show 01, 02, 03, etc. The next one we have three lowercase d's. That's the day of the week truncated. So just mon, tu, wed, etc., etc. And four lowercase d's is the day of the week fully spelled out. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. Moving down to the next line, capital M, and punctuation does matter, capital M and two capital M's is the month. And since December is showing as 12, but if it was January, it would be 1 or 01. And then same thing, 3 capital M's and 4 capital M's is the month spelled out, truncated, or fully spelled out. Next line we have the year line, lowercase y. 2 y's is just the last two digits, 24. 4 y's is the entire date, 2024. Then moving on down, we start getting to the time. H is the hour in 12-hour format, lowercase h. So if it's AM, PM, you'll be 3 or 03. And uppercase H is the time in 24-hour format, so 1500 hours. And same thing, and this, you'll see this format throughout. I'm not going to keep repeating myself, but the single instance is without deleting zeros. Double instance is with deleting zeros. Okay, and then moving down to the next line, we have minutes. Same thing, lowercase m's is minutes, lowercase s's is seconds. Oh good, I was able to catch it on this one. Z is the milliseconds. So the time was 3:38, 28.030 seconds when I baked this in. So single Z, you see there's still a leading zero there, but it doesn't the following zero because it's on the other side of the decimal point. It's backing out the zeros that you don't need. So triple Z's has the trailing zero, single Z doesn't. And then finally in the very bottom we have the capital A and lowercase a is AM, PM, just in uppercase or lowercase. And then the letter T is your time zone. In my case, Eastern Standard Time. So now let's look at this in a practical setting. You want to have your month, day, and year. You know, you want this is a fairly normal output, at least here in the US, 12/30/2024, or even 12/30/24, with what you would just have the two Ys instead of 4. Or another way of placing it is Monday, December 30th, 24. So you can just see how these two correspond to each other. Now, the next thing I want to show you is if you want to add some additional text into your text block. So like here we have, today is Monday, December 30th, 2024. It's 3:38 p.m. That's a statement that we might use somewhere. In order to get that, we have to take the words that we want to spell out today is, and we need to place it in single quotes, here and here. And same with it is, here and here. Everything else is a variable that's going to get replaced. Now in the second section, I didn't put the quotes in, I just spelled it out. And if we go down here, you can see that the letter D was replaced by the number 30. The letter A was replaced by PM. The letter S was replaced by 28, which was the second, I guess. Yeah. And the T, Eastern Standard Time. And once again, the second. So that you want to make sure that if you're going to include text with your variables in the same text box. If you put it in a separate text box, it doesn't matter. But depending on the length of your variables, it might not line up with another text box. So I think in most cases it's better that if you put everything in the same text box if you want good readability. Let's see that. Yeah. So that's pretty much everything to do with the date and time settings. Now we're moving over to cut settings. Okay, and you see here we have this text box is set as cut settings, where this one is just set as normal. So I'm going to go ahead and bake those in. Once again, you look, if you hit the test, you can see how it changes. I'm just going to bake them in so we can go line by line again. And if you'll notice here, I have the labels in single quotes, so they will show up over here. So the first thing is C00. That's the layer you're working with. It doesn't matter what layer your text is actually on. The layer setting here is the layer that you're showing the settings for. So in our case, we're looking at layer 00, which you can see speed is 135, max 25, min 50, 0.1, 254, etc., etc. All right, so the difference between lowercase and uppercase is whether or not it has the units with it or percent sign with it. So 135 or 135 millimeters per second. 25 or 25%. Minimum 5 or 5%. Just 254 or 254 dpi. 0.1 or 0.1 millimeter. Get it? Now, laser name L, that is the name from whatever you have it named in your devices. In my case, I call this the Omtech 100W. The Z offset, Q pulse, and frequency basically only affects those with galvo fiber type lasers. Your normal CO2 lasers and your diode lasers don't use those settings, but I put them in here because they're part of the set of variables that you can put in. So how is this useful to us? Say you're doing some testing. You want to figure out what the best settings are for a particular job, and you're changing different settings. You're going all over the place with it. Rather than trying to remember what you did or write it down, you include that as part of the settings. I'm going to change this here to cut settings. And right now, this is what's going to display there when I bring it up. But I'm going to grab that, highlight it, and preview. And you can see now that it's 135 millimeters a second, max power 25, min 5, 0.1 millimeter, and this is the machine I'm using it on. So if I make this print and I come back sometime later and look at it and go, ooh, I really like this. These are the settings I used, or I don't like the settings I used here. This is horrible. Let's try some different settings. Let's just bump it up, bump the power down, bump the minimum up a shot, and then preview it again. And now you see all those values have changed. That's just a good way of keeping track of when you're experimenting with different settings. How you can do that is by putting the cut settings variable text in with the layer that you're cutting out or engraving, whatever the case may be. Now, next we're going to go over and look at some CSV files and how that works out. So what I have here is I have a pencil jig that'll do 40 pencils, 20 in each column. And let me turn that off for right now. So what you can do, I mean, the simplest way is if you're going to do a pencil, you draw out where your pencil is going to be, you put a name in here, type your name out. Good. And if you want to do 10 pencils, say, you just do an array of, so we've got 10 pencils that say Bethany. Cool. Now I want to do 10 pencils that say Charles. Okay. I guess I can copy this. Nope. Duplicate it. There we go. Move it over here. Do it again. Change this to Charles. And do it another array over here. Okay, now I've got 20 pencils. Easy peasy, right? There's a much better way. Let's get rid of all this. And bring in the variables. So what I did here is for the CSV merge feature, you have to use percent variables with a comma separated value file. %0 signifies column 1. %1 signifies column 2, and so on. For this to work properly, you have to set up the array in the right way. Let me get rid of all these extras here. And I'm going to select the first one, go into the array tool, and we're going to make 20. And they're spaced properly. And the important part is here you have to auto increment the variable text. If you don't do that, the value will never change. It will always just use row 0, column 0. So by doing that now, it will function properly when you bring in the CSV file. Let's go over and take a look at how to create the file. So right here I've got a CSV, I've got 10 Bethany's, 10 Charles, I got 10 Tabithas, and I want to do 10 Nancy's. And I'm just going to show you a quick trick on how to get your names to copy down. Once you highlight it, you grab the little corner and drag it down, and it just copies everything down and populates every field all the way down. And I'm using Google Sheets here, but it works the same way in Excel and probably every other spreadsheet out there. But now, in order for this to work for us, we need to export this as a CSV. And in Google Sheets, you go to File, Download, Comma Separated Value, CSV. And it downloads it. And now I'm going to come over here, back to my Lightburn, and open the variable text box. And I'm going to browse and find my pencil names, double click on it and bring it in. Now when I click test, it populates all those names just like they were in the spreadsheet. So, and it starts at 0 and ends at 19, which is actually 20, because remember everything starts with 0. Rows start with 0 and columns start with 0. So if I was to bump this up to say 5 and then test, it actually starts with number 6. So we only have 30 total instead of 40 total. Because it goes from 5 to 19, and there's nothing after that. Anytime that you have an empty field in your spreadsheet, it's not going to print anything. It's just going to ignore it. That's a quick and easy way to use your pencil jig. And you can just go in and change the names in your spreadsheet very quickly and easily, much faster than going through and changing each individual name on the pencil sheet. Especially once you've got it filled out one time, you got to either delete them all and start over, or you have to change each one individually. Then you run risk of moving the alignment off a little bit. This is a much nicer way to do that. So, moving on to the next feature, we're going to use the CSV feature again, along with the date and time feature. What I have here are some garden stakes. Just for you plant a garden, you stick a stake in the road and know what was planted there, when it was planted, and I'm also adding how many days till germination when it should be ready, just to get an idea. So what I'm doing here is let me go back to the spreadsheet that I created for that one, and that's called garden markers. So here I've got 8 different vegetables, fruits, whatever, and in the second column I have number of days till they should be ready to pick. And I'm not a gardener. I know these numbers are not right. I just made them up just because I wanted it all to be different so you could see the difference in them. But same thing, we go to download CSV file. It downloads it. We go back into Lightburn, go find the file, garden markers, and this is going to start with green beans 45 days from today's date. Great. Now, one thing we want to do here, and my garden marker is 105 millimeters wide. So I don't want the text to be any larger than, well, I'm going to say 100 millimeters as the maximum possibility. So on my text box, I'm going to click on Shape Properties, and I put the max width as 100, and I put squeeze on. In fact, let me bring this down to 50, just so we can see what it does. Because I'm not right on the verge of them not doing anything for me. So I click on Test. I didn't tab out it. Now we go. Okay, see right now it's squeezing it. It's maintaining it to 50 millimeters wide and squeezing the text in. If I go over here and turn off squeeze and then do it, it limits it, it shrinks it totally from around. It doesn't truncate it, it just shrinks the whole box. So the difference is squeeze off, it shrinks the box. Squeeze on, it maintains the height, but it shrinks it down widthwise. I'm going to go back to 100 millimeters because that'll fit nicely within my boxes. And so what I did here was I have %0, and this is on Merge CSV again. This is Merge CSV, %0, %days from. And because it's a CSV, it's only pulling variables in where the %0, %1 are. I don't have to worry about putting the other stuff in single quotes. So in this situation, you don't have to use the single quotes. On the other modes, you do have to use single quotes because the variables are just basic letters that are out there and could be mixed in with your text. And then the bottom, you can't have 2 different modes in the same text box. So I had to create a separate text box for my date, my planting date. All right. So there again, when we do a test, it shows green beans 45 days from 12/30/24. I'm going to group it together just because. And I'm going to create an array. And 4 wide and 2 deep. Let's see that work. That works. So if I don't turn on increment, they're all going to be the same. Watch this. See, now they all say the exact same thing. We don't want that. go back here and turn on auto increment, which is, click OK, and now they all say something different. It's pulling all the values from the CSV file that I did, and let's just do a quick preview. There you go. You got your stakes, all the text on them, how many days it goes until they're ready for picking, supposedly. And then finally, we're going to look at serial numbers. So here I have a serial number. That's my setting, serial number. I'm making these tags, these item tags, and I'm using starting with 1001. You see that's my offset setting here, starting at 1001. I can make it whatever number I want, but that's where I want to start, 1001. So it's DDDD of 5,000. So 1001 of 5,000, and I have to put this of 5,000 in single quotes. There we go. Click on test, we get that. But obviously I don't want to do these one at a time, so I'm going to make an array. So here we have an array of 20, and if I'm going to do a bunch of them, I will do my advance by 20. So watch what happens here. We test it. Starts at 1001, goes to 1020. I click next. 1021, 1040, next, and so on. Every sheet you do, it advances by whatever number you place in here. You can turn on auto advance, and that one, when you actually send the job, you don't have to hit next. It will automatically advance it to the next one. But I'm not even hooked up to my computer laser right now. I'm just showing you in software. But yeah, when you actually go to run this job, you hit auto advance, and it will run it forward just like you want it to. And so here, if we hit test, we should be on 41 through 60. Okay. Now, the last thing I want to show you with the CSV is just a quick and simple way to do a clock face. Let me get all this, make all that go away. Bring this down. Okay. So here again, we're using DD with serial number because we want a 2-digit number. And one thing I didn't show you is on the serial number, if you want leading zeros, you have to add a 0 beforehand. So let's start. I'll show you how that works real quickly. Not even explaining anything, just go through, boom, and test. Oh. Okay. It's got a 0, 1, 0, 2. Yeah, we don't necessarily want that. Okay, and back up one more, we get rid of that. Okay. And change that back to 0. Okay, so to make a clock, you put in your DD, choose your font, all those normal things you would do, align it centered with your circle, shift click, make sure it's centered vertically, and then go to your array tool. And the things you want to be careful of is, we want 12 copies. We want to use the last selected object position as center, which that means we selected the letters and then selected the circle. If you do it in the opposite direction, it will give you weird. I'll show you in a second. But here we also want to auto increment the text. We want to go from 1 to 12. We don't want to go have them all be zeros or ones or whatever. So we'll click on OK and do my test. And that is not a good clock. We don't have a number 12. We have a number 0 there. So how do we fix that? Well, I'm going to bake it in. I'm going to ungroup it, select, and just change that to a number 12. And that's done. That's the fastest way to do this, in my opinion. Now let me show you another way to do it. Okay, so we have our clock face. We'll grab a pencil, find the center, click, shift and click off. Now we'll escape that. I'm going to grab both of these, but not the text, and I want to rotate it by 30 degrees. And the reason I choose 30 is because 30 is 1/12 of 360, which is a diameter or number of degrees in a circle. I'm going to come in here and see how it's snapping to that line. I'm going to bring it about where I want it, and then I'm just going to delete this line. Now we'll select that, select this, do our array tool again, click OK, and we're going to start with number 1. And there we have 1 through 12. So it does the same thing. We end up with the same results. I think the other way is a little bit faster, but you know, there are often more than one way to do things in Lightburn. Now let me back out of here again and show you what happens when you select it in the wrong order and go to the array tool. Instead of using the circle to go around, it's circling around the lettering, and that's definitely not what we want to do. The other option is if we do it in the correct order, bring it up. If we turn off use last selected object, it just doesn't do what we want it to either. So anyway, that's the gist of variable text tools. The different modes that we have, the 4 different modes, how you can use them, some practical examples. I hope you found this useful for you. Appreciate it if you like and subscribe to my channel. Also down in the description you'll find some Amazon affiliate links. If you use those, click on them and you buy something, it doesn't cost you anything extra, but it does give a little bit of a spiff to my channel, which helps me to continue doing what I do. So thanks so much for watching, and we'll see you next time.